Mr. Barber, raise your right hand for me, sir. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can put your hand down. You're before the court on state of Georgia versus Lazarus Shakorian Barber. Count 1, battery, family violence. Count 2, battery. Count 3, simple battery, family violence. Count 4, simple battery. And you're represented by attorney Chelsea Hahn, who's with you at the law from the law firm of Lister Holt and Dennis. Ms. Hahn, you've indicated your client wishes to enter a guilty plea. Is that to count 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and counts 2, 3, and 4 will merge?
That's correct.
All right, so Mr. Barber, by entering a plea of guilty to count 1, sir, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, factual basis and recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On September the 15th of 2023, an officer was dispatched to 558 KS Boulevard in Morrow, Georgia, where the incident occurred in Clayton County. At that time, the officer made contact with the victim, Alahan, who advised that her boyfriend, the defendant, had slapped her with an open hand multiple times in the face, causing her to bleed and have a busted lip. And the officer did observe the blood on her face and her busted lip. The state is recommending for count 1, 12 months to serve 30 days. Credit for the time the defendant has been in custody. The balance to be probated, family violence intervention program, a $500 fine, 50 hours of community service, and no contact with the victim. And the counts 2, 3, and 4 would merge.
All right, Miss Hahn, anything on behalf of Mr. Barber?
Your Honor, we just ask that you accept the state's recommendation.
All right, so Mr. Barber, you and Miss Olegu, do y'all have any children together?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no. Were y'all married at the time of the children's birth, or have y'all been married at any time since then?
No, ma'am.
Okay, have the children been legitimized through a court process?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so the hard fact, Mr. Barber, the law only sees those children as belonging to Miss Olegu, with one exception, and that is the law will allow you to send money and nothing else. No comments, no text messages, no did you get the money? I sent you the money, nothing, just money. By check, money order would be smart, not cash, to the address where the children reside. But other than that, you can't have any contact with Miss Olegu or the children until such time as you're deemed the legitimate father through the law. Has nothing to do with biology, has to do with legality. And so that you're going to have to stay away from her and the children and have no contact with them unless you do it through the court process. Now, I say these things because a lot of people say, oh, those are my kids. I get that. Biologically, if you acknowledge that, I'm fine with it. But legally, I'm going to tell you what the law is going to look at. And if I say no contact, it means if you have any contact for whatever reason, then you're subject to having the rest of this time, this 12 months that the 30 days you did, I could revoke up to the next 11 months and you would spend that time in jail. If you have contact with Miss Olegu, you could also be charged with additional misdemeanors or felonies punishable by up to 10 years or more in prison. Do you understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you want to have contact with your kids other than sending money and nothing else, then you need to go through the courts. You need to go to Superior Court on the 4th floor and initiate something. So, and let me just say this, Mr. Barber, no relationship has ever improved because somebody got slapped in the mouth. I know that's that old school 1970s pimp stuff, but they don't really work. you know, there's some dude on the internet now going around talking to people in podcasts, and he talking about how you have to slap somebody in the mouth, a woman in the mouth. That don't really work. All it does is end up with you in an orange jumpsuit and no contact with your family.
Yeah, ma'am.
It has never improved a relationship. So I'm going to accept your plea of guilty to count 1. Counts 2, 3, and 4 will merge. I'll sentence you to 12 months to serve 30 days. Credit for time served. Balance will be probated for you to take a family violence intervention program class. It's a 24-week class. If you miss more than 3 or you mess up with your consecutive classes, then they will make you start over, and you don't have that kind of time. Also, the fine is $500, $737.50 with the surcharges, and then 50 hours of community service. Please make sure that you pay attention to the guidelines for community service so you don't waste your time or the court's time. And you're to have no contact with Alejandra Olegu or the children of Alejandra Olegu. Do you understand?
Yeah, ma'am.
All right, you can go back with the sheriff's office. Mr. Carmichael is going to get you set up with intake.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. We want to do Boykin next?
Yes, Your Honor, that's fine.
Everybody.
Mr. Boykin,
Yes, ma'am.
raise your right hand for me, sir. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give will be true?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can put your hand down. So you're before the court on a petition for revocation of probation. You're standing next to your attorney, Mr. Justin White, and Mr. Demario Contavious Boykin. You were before this court on case 2020CR 05397. You were here on the 20th day of September 2022. You were sentenced to 24 months on probation.
Yes, ma'am.
That you have 3 months and 19 days on your first year of probation and 12 months remaining on the second year. Your sentence was told because we lost track of you. Says
Yes.
that you failed to provide proof. It says you provided a forged medical document for a medical visit on May 22nd of 2023 and admitted that you did not go to that appointment. You failed to report. You failed to report on May 22nd of 2023 for a revocation hearing. You failed to comply with counseling for the Certified Family Violence Intervention Program. You failed to complete community service. You documented 0 of 40 hours, and you failed to pay any money to probation services. You are now $4,365 in arrears. And that is $3,915 in court-ordered fines, and the rest is in supervision fees. Mr. White, anything to explain, Mr. Boykin?
Oh, hold up. So, Your Honor, just going in order of these, Mr. Boykin had told me that in regards to the medical proof that he provided, he had said that he had in fact been stabbed and he did have actual medical documents to show that, but he had actually not shown his probation officer, who was Mr. Cash at the time, those documents, but he does have those and he can provide them to probation. And regarding to failure to report, Mr. Boykin just mentioned that he did have a new number. And of course, due to Mr. Cass passing away, he also had a new probation officer. But in regards to the other things were just based on, at least with the counseling and the failure to pay, with the fact that he was not gainfully employed. However, recently he has become gainfully employed. He's been working a job for 2 months. He's been working a job at a warehouse. He says that the warehouse job is still available to him, and that he is now able to make payments and enroll in the family violence classes. As you know, he was sentenced to 24 months on probation. He has plenty of time to complete those classes still. And I believe that it would still be beneficial for him to take those classes and go into them, especially with the fact that he is now gainfully employed, Your Honor. So we would just simply ask, he does wish to stipulate to everything other than, of course, the medical proof, but he would just simply ask that he be placed back on probation, Your Honor.
On the counter?
So let me understand.
Yes, ma'am.
The probation is saying that he presented false documents. I get that he doesn't want to stipulate to that because as we are all understanding, that's a felony. So we just gonna skip over that one and just let him, what we doing with that?
No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I got stabbed. I'm sorry. And I wasn't really in my right headspace because I went to Grady for like 3 days and it took me like almost 2 months to heal my chest. But I have those documents. I was telling Mr. Cash I can bring him those from when I went to Grady, those documents, but Mr. Cash was kind of like on me and I couldn't move. I was in the basically like on bed rest. I couldn't move for a minute. So I was telling him, can he give me time? And he was like, if I don't do it today, I'm going to put a hold out on you. I'm like, Mr. Cash, I need time so my mom can take me up there because I couldn't move. But I have a great job now to where I can make all those payments and pretty much show you those medical history because I got stabbed in my chest. So I was on like sitting down for like 2 months, man. I apologize. But I was telling Mr. Cash.
Mr. Boykin, who stabbed you?
Huh?
Who stabbed you?
This dude that stayed at the address on 53113 Dogwood Drive.
You're not going back there, are you?
Huh?
You're not going back there.
Oh, no, ma'am. I'm not going back there.
Mr. Austin, it's up to you, sir.
Well, the recommendation that I had received from Ms. Wright was 120 days to serve and close this case out.
That's a lot of that's a lot of time. Mr. White?
Your Honor, I believe, Mr. Boykin, you were arrested.
Yes.
Your Honor, Mr. Boykin has been in here since December 23rd. Your Honor, I do understand the allegations as well as the not completion. Mr. Boykin has explained his reasoning behind those. He's not using those as an excuse. We would simply ask at the very least that he serve 30 days and return to probation. That way he can at least gain the benefit of doing the classes and completing the community service, Your Honor.
When did he get stabbed?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
What date did he get stabbed?
I got stabbed in like May 16th, earlier this year.
Or last year.
Last year, I'm sorry, my bad.
So you got sentenced in September. You didn't get stabbed until May. What were you doing all that time that you didn't do anything?
Miss Haywood, I was my first probation officer was Princess Minard or something like that. If you look
Right.
up,
Ms. Menard.
and I was supposed to meet Mr. Nard because my probation was $450 a month. I didn't understand like why was it that high because I told him I'd do 2 years. So and Mr. Menard never scheduled an appointment. So Mr. Cash came in maybe like, I want to say like January, February. That's when I started talking to him. And I was coming up here talking to Mr. Cash. And Mr. Cash said, I'm trying to get it down, go to court and get it down to $200 a month. Which now I have enough money to at least pay $1,500 at least try to get back on track.
Okay, I get all that about the money, but you got 40 hours of community service. You haven't done that.
But
You
see,
didn't start the
Cash was
FVIP.
I'm sorry, man.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Mr. Cash was finna get there with me because I can do 40 hours community service within a week at a church or my, a park or anything. I can get that done for you. But Mr. Cash was telling me to get the money in and start working on that part. And I told him, well, I can't afford to pay $450 a month. But
Mr. Austin, you say Ms. Chang is recommended 120 days to serve and close?
Ms. Wright, yes, Your Honor.
Oh, Ms. Wright, okay.
Yes,
What you think, Mr. Austin? Because see, I can't judge his suitability. I don't think he's suitable for probation, based on what I'm seeing. Because
Well,
I
yeah.
feel like there was a waste of time between September when I sentenced you and May when you got stabbed, that things could have been done. And so I could look at something and say, hey, you know, he's somebody that I maybe should take a chance on because he was working on this before he got stabbed. And so, you know, some of these things have been done before he got stabbed. It wasn't like he failed to do any of what I asked him to do. But it seems that he was just focusing on the money, and there were so many other things that I asked him to do that didn't get done. And so what I don't want is to put him back on probation, and then we're stuck in the same situation again.
I would agree with you, Your Honor. There has been a lot of time that has been on almost 8 months. Community service
He could have had
done.
community service done by the, like he said, he could do it in a week. He could have done it in September or October.
Yes. And Your Honor, he's had time since before he got arrested to provide all the documentation as far as him being stabbed.
Yep, could have brought that in.
So with that being said, Your Honor, I would have to go with the recommendation that's followed.
All right, so I'll let him stipulate to the technicals. He doesn't necessarily have to admit that he brought in false documents or whatever y'all want to do with that. That's up to y'all. But at this time, I'm going to go with the recommendation for probation and sentence you. I'll revoke 120 days. And then after service of 120 days, because you have 24 weeks consecutive on probation. So after service of 120 days, we'll go ahead and, depending on how you do, we'll go ahead and close the case. So I'll go ahead and send that over.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Up to jail. Either that or 60. But either way, once you're done, you'll be off. Yeah. So